Hello, everybody. What's going on? How are we doing? Today is our fourth DOP. This is the middle of the order podcast. How are we doing today? That is right, ladies and gentlemen. We are 3 down and 3 to go, with today being number 4. And it's all about the AL Central. A couple years ago, I've called this division the AL Mid. 2024 proved me wrong. 3 teams made the dance that year. Last year was an interesting year. What's at store this year? For those of you who are new here, we do the DOP's division outlook and predictions for all 6 divisions each year, starting, last year, I guess, technically. If you've missed the ones already, we've talked about the AL East, we've talked about the NL West, and we've talked about the NL Central. But today is the AL Central, and then tomorrow, if you're listening to this in live time, essentially, but on Thursday, maybe they're already out by the time you're listening to this, if they're already past the Thursday, but we will have the final 2 DOPs out. That will be the AL West and the NL East. So stay tuned for those ones as well. But with all of that being said, let's dive on into the first team in the AL Central to talk about. That is the Cleveland Guardians, who last year they finished 88 and 74, but it wasn't because of their offense. It really struggled. They were 29th in average, on-base percentage, and OPS. They were 28th in runs, but they had 10th best starter ERA and the 3rd best relief ERA, and somehow they made the dance. Not only did they make the dance, they made it as the division winner. They were 15 and a half games back of the Tigers at one point. They clawed their way all the way back those 15 and a half games, had a fantastic month of September, and they became the AL Central champions. They were the 3 seed and faced those said Tigers in the wild card round, but were knocked out 2-1 in Game 3. The final there, they went the distance, but lost the pivotal Game 3. And after an incredible 15.5 game back climb, it resulted in losing to them in the playoffs when it mattered the most. Stephen Vogt is back for his 3rd stint as the Guardians manager, and like Pat Murphy, both of them are entering their 3rd year as a manager for a team, and both were back-to-back winners of the Manager of the Year award. That's right. What Pat Murphy did in 24 and 25, Stephen Vogt did the exact same thing, was the Manager of the Year in the AL in 2024 and 25, and will look to three-peat just like Pat Murphy. I've been a big advocate of Stephen Vogt since he got this job a couple years ago. I think he's a great manager. I don't know if he should have been Manager of the Year last year. It depends on which story you like better. The 15.5 game lead, battle climb that the Guardians did to beat the Tigers, or John Schneider and the Blue Jays going from last in the AL East to the best team in the AL. I digress. This is not about the Blue Jays. We're talking about the Guardians and who they end up losing. It was not a crazy offseason for them as a whole. They lost Lane Thomas. They lost Sam Henches. John Kenzie Noel, that big Christmas home run that we saw him hit against the Yankees a few years ago, that will always be remembered. Will Brennan's gone, Jacob Junis, and John Means. I don't know if he ever pitched with the Guardians, but they took a gamble on him and how he has moved on as well. They bring back Austin Hedges. They bring back Colby Allard and Ben Lively. They also pick up Sean Armstrong and Rhys Hoskins. Hoskins is on a non-roster invitee deal, but when you look at this team, you'll probably see him. I think it makes sense that he'll be on the roster here. When you look at the rotation, there are some fun names here, including Gavin Williams, whose Fangraphs listed as the ace of this staff. He took a big step forward last year. I think he's going to take even a bigger step forward this year. I'm in on Gavin Williams. Tanner Bybee, he's been around. He's been doing his thing. Slade Sassani, I believe is the pronunciation. I was calling it like Cicioni or something. I'm not exactly sure on the pronunciation of this man. I got to watch this guy pitch properly one time. Slade Sassani, I believe. Logan Allen is the 4, and then Joey Cantillo as the 5-man there rounds off that Guardians rotation. The lineup's got some youth, but it's definitely got some issues as well. Stephen Kwan, he's the left fielder. He's got no issues offensive-wise. He's great. George Valera, the right fielder, would bat second. Jose Ramirez, no introduction needed for the third baseman. Kyle Manzardo, the DH, bats fourth. Rhys Hoskins, listed as the first baseman, even though he is not on the roster yet, but is the non-roster invitee, part of spring training for the Guardians, and again, as a fan of the game, expected to make the roster here. Chase DeLauder comes in the 6th hole. He's the center fielder. Gabriel Arias, the shortstop, he'll bat 7th, with Bo Naylor catching, batting 8th, and then Brian Rocchio at second base, batting 9th. The bench features Austin Hedges, David Fry, Angel Martinez, and Jonathan Rodriguez. That's the 4. Bullpen's got some notable names, but it's definitely on the weaker side of Guardians bullpens as of late. Cade Smith, now the closer, he does his thing. Hunter Gaddis, and of course Sean Armstrong, who they brought in. I'm sure by the end of the year we'll be talking about another 2 or 3 names from this Guardian staff that we said make these incredible leaps, because that's what the Guardians do. They're similar to the Rays in that aspect, where they find guys and turn them into great pitchers. On the IL, they do have Andrew Walters, who is questionable for opening day. And this is not an IL, but they do have their list of naughty men, which is, of course, Luis Ortiz and Emmanuel Clase, who have decided to gamble away their careers. They are listed, but of course, will not be playing. Free agents in 2027. It's funny, actually. Emmanuel Clase has a $10 million club option. I don't think the Guardians will pick that up. Austin Hedges and Sean Armstrong are listed. Sean Armstrong will come in with an $8 million mutual option. So depending on how he pitches will determine whether he is a free agent or not in terms of the Guardians aspect. Maybe if he pitches too well, he thinks he's worth more than $8 million. We'll still see him on the market, but we will have to see. That is what the Guardians look like coming into 2026. We move on now to the Detroit Tigers, who came in at 87 and 75. That's right, they had a tough year. They had a great year, and then it turned into a tough year. They were 11th in runs, 11th in starter ERA, 17th in relief ERA. They threw away the division to the Guardians late. They finished 1 game back of them. They actually finished tied with the Houston Astros for that 3rd and final wildcard spot. However, they had the tiebreak over them, so they got in as the 6th seed and got to play those said Guardians in a grudge match in the AL wildcard, to which they did get the last laugh in. They beat them 2-1 in that series. They then lost to the Mariners in a tough Game 5 in the ALDS that went into the 15th inning before the Tigers were walked off on. 3-2, obviously the Mariners win that series. AJ Hinch is back in his 11th full season as a manager. This will be his 6th full season for the Detroit Tigers. This will mark the most he's ever managed for a single team. He only spent 5 years with the Astros before his incident. And then after his suspension was served, he came to Detroit, and he's been with them since. They did lose a handful of names, including guys like Andy Ibanez, Alex Lang, Jason Foley, Justin Henry Malloy, Jose Urquidy, Chris Paddock, Paul Sewald, Manuel Margot, Tommy Canley, Alex Cobb, Chase Lee. Some of those guys still free agents as of the recording of this episode. They bring back some fun names, including Gleyber Torres, who picked up the qualifying offer he was given. Kyle Finnegan is back for the bullpen. They also added Johan Simon. They bring in a veteran, Kenley Jansen, for the bullpen. They bring in one of the top prizes of the offseason. Didn't seem like it as the offseason played out, but Framber Valdez joins the rotation, as well as probably the best signing of the entire offseason. Justin Verlander is back where it all started in Detroit. This is one of my favorite moves for both him and the Tigers, and I think it will work out lovely for them. Which means that rotation with 2 new guys added brings it up to Tarek Skubal, the ace of that staff, Framber Valdez, as the 2. Jack Flaherty is your 3, Justin Verlander your 4, and once first overall pick, Casey Mize, is now the fifth man of this rotation. This has the makings of a sneaky good rotation. We'll just see how it lasts. Lineup, Parker Meadows listed as the leadoff hitter batting for center fielder. That is not the right English, but whatever it is. He plays center field. Gleyber Torres listed as the two, playing the two, second baseman there. Kerry Carpenter, the big DH, he bats third. Riley Green in left field bats fourth. Spencer Torkelson, another 1-1 pick. He's the first baseman. He bats fifth. Wenzel Perez in right field bats sixth. Colt Keith now listed as the third baseman. He bats seventh. Dylan Dingler, he's the catcher, batting eighth. And then Zach McKinstry listed as the shortstop, batting ninth. On the bench, you'll have Jake Rogers, Javier Baez, the most paid player on this Tigers staff, I believe. One of them, at least. Jemiah Jones and Matt Vierling are the four bench options there for the Tigers, listed by Fangraphs, of course. Wow, my English today. The bullpen brings in the heavy veteran guy, as mentioned, Kenley Jansen. Kyle Finnegan is back. Of course, Will Vest, he's been very good. He's a name that I now know very well on. Same thing as Tyler Holton and Kadir Montero, as well as Drew Anderson, among other guys there. On the IL, Troy Melton, he is questionable for opening day. Bo Brisk, questionable for opening day as well. Of course, Jackson Jobe, he is questionable for this season. He got Tommy John at about June last year, so if he does come back, it'll be at the end of the season, maybe for a playoff push kind of thing. Reese Olson, we know he is out for the season. 60-day IL for him. Not great, but again, it's a very fun rotation. I like to think so, at least. Free agents in 2027. Gleyber Torres, of course, the 1-year qualifying option, so he'll be back on the market. But this is where it gets really interesting. Justin Verlander, Jack Flaherty, Casey Mize, Tarek Skubal, all guys who are free agents after this year. That's 4 of the 5 rotation members that I just listed off earlier here. Jake Rogers also going to be on the market. Kenley Jansen has a $12 million club option, so depending on how he pitches. And then Drew Anderson, a $10 million club option. So a couple of options there for the Tigers for their bullpen. But their rotation could be taking quite the hit, including Tarek Skubal going for his 3rd Cy Young in a row, mind you. So big things to watch this year for Detroit. As we move on now to the Kansas City Royals, and I gotta say, they might be my pick for this all for the AL Central. They were 82-80 last year, just 1 game above 500. They were 26th in runs, 7th in starter ERA, and 7th in relief ERA. They finished 6 games back of the Guardians for the division and 5 games back of the wild card. Matt Quatraro is back in his 4th full season, all with the Kansas City Royals. That'll be fun for him. They lose a couple of guys they picked up at the deadline last year, guys like Mike Yastrzemski, but they're also picking up some guys, or they're losing some guys, who they've had for a while. Guys like Michael Lorenzen has been around a couple of years. Hunter Harvey's no longer with them. Taylor Clark, MJ Melendez, he's gone. Adam Frazier, Randall Grichuk, Mark Canha, Angel Zerpa. So there are some names that are no longer with the Royals. But when you lose guys, you can bring in guys. And I got to say, the Royals brought in some nice guys. Nick Mears, Isaac Collins, Lane Thomas, Matt Strom, Alec Lang, Mitch Spence, Cameron Misner, Starling Marte, really recent actually. This was just the other day as of the recording of this. That's a fun one right there. The rotation for the Royals, again, sneaky good. Cole Reagan should be healthy, ready to go, hopefully for a full 30 starts plus. Michael Wacha listed as the 2. Chris Bubich, he continues to kind of break out each and every single year. Seth Lugo has been so solid for them. He's listed as the 4, with behind Noah Cameron, who, kind of came into the season last year, and he was surprisingly good. I know I had him on my fantasy team for a couple of weeks, and he was pitching really well during that time and, had a pretty good year. The lineup, Maikel Garcia, he got extended during this offseason. He plays third base. He's the leadoff guy, according to Fangraphs. Not sure if that will stick. Bobby Witt Jr., he's the shortstop. He is very good at baseball, the best player on this team, of course. Vinny Pasquantino, the Pasquatch, first baseman, bats third. Salvador Perez, the catcher, batting fourth. Jack Caglione, top prospect right fielder, he'll bat fifth. Jonathan India, second baseman, bats sixth. Carter Jensen, he popped up a couple times on the sheet last year. He was surprising. DH, he bats seventh. Isaac Collins in left field, batting eighth. And then Kyle Isbell, he main dates center field. He'll bat ninth, according to this Fangraphs here. The bench, wow, I'm like speeding up. Michael Massey, Tyler Tolbert, Starling Marte, and Lane Thomas are the men listed here. The bullpen's got some names that you definitely know, including Carlos Estevez, Lucas Urseg, Matt Strom, Nick Mears, John Schreiber, Alex Lang. So a nice handful of guys to trust for opening day. They do have a couple guys on the IL. Stephen Kolek, he is questionable for opening day. And then Alec Marsh, he is questionable for the season. He's currently listed on the 60-day IL. And if he does come back, it will definitely be towards the end of the season. When you look ahead into next season, the free agents after this year for the Royals for 2027 include Lane Thomas, Matt Strom, Starling Marte, Jonathan India is the guy listed here, Chris Bubich, as well as John Schreiber. There's also Carlos Estevez, who has a $13 million club option that, honestly, if I was the club, I might pick up because he's been pretty good, and I'd expect him to have another pretty good season this year, entering 2026. Let's go the Minnesota Twins, the fourth team in this division. They finished 70-92. They were 23rd in runs, 23rd in starter ERA, 26th in relief ERA. They finished 18 games back of the Guardians and 17 games back for that final wild card spot. The difference between the Twins, though, is that they had two versions of their season. They had the first half of the season before the deadline, where they had kind of a complete team that wasn't playing good. And then they had a second half of the season where they traded away almost their entire team and had guys who were kind of exceeding expectations because they had lost all of the expectations for the year. They traded like 10 guys at the deadline last year, including Louis Varland and Griffin Jackson, Carlos Correa. The list would go on and on. They do bring in a new manager. No more Rocco Baldelli. It is Derek Shelton, who will have his sixth full year as a manager. All five of those were with the Pirates, who he got released by last year after going 12-26 through the first 38 games. Yep, he sounds like he's the perfect manager to mandate this Minnesota Twins team in his first year. Just because they traded away so many guys at the deadline doesn't mean they didn't lose some guys at the end of this season by trade, including Eduardo Julien, who they traded away to the Rockies. Two guys that they let walk in free agency include Christian Vasquez and Yenis Cabrera as well. So a couple of losses there, but again, most of them came during the season. They did bring in some guys, though, and some names that you will know, some MLB talented guys, including Josh Bell, Victor Caratini, Tyler Rogers is back with the Twins after some time away, Alex Jackson, Orlando Arcia, Eric Wagaman, Gio Urshela. They're taking a chance on Liam Hendricks, Ryan Kreidler, and Anthony Banda. So some names that you definitely know. These are some of the guys who will probably be some of the best players on this Twins team. We don't know what they're going to look like this year, and that's a scary thing, not a good thing. The rotation consists of Joe Ryan, who leads the pack here. He's the ace of the staff, with Bailey Ober coming in at the 2. Simeon Woods Richardson, the longest last name in baseball currently, I believe. He's the third guy. Taj Broadley, who they picked up at the deadline. He is on the fourth guy in the rotation there. And then Zebby Matthews rounds off the starting 5. The lineup for the Twins will, of course, consist of Byron Buxton, who plays center field. He is the leadoff. He is very good at baseball. He just happens to be made out of glass. Josh Bell is listed at the first baseman, batting second. Luke Keschel, the second baseman, he was one of those players that kind of stepped up throughout the struggles last year. He's going to be a name to watch. Trevor Larnach in left field, he'll bat 4th. Victor Caratini listed as the DH, batting 5th. Royce Lewis, the third baseman, he'll bat 6th. Matt Waldner in right field will bat 7th. Ryan Jeffers, the catcher, batting 8th. And then Brooks Lee out there playing shortstop, batting ninth, with a bench that consists of Cody Clemens, son of Roger Clemens, Ryan Kreidler, Austin Martin, and James Outman. Hopefully, Martin can tap into something because I wish he, could be a Major League ball player at the Major League level. He's definitely struggled since kind of making his debut with the Twins. The bullpen, of course, Taylor Rogers, he's back. He's going to be kind of closing out the games for them. Justin Topa, Cody Funderbunk, and Anthony Banda are the couple of names that you will know out of this Twins bullpen. One injury that definitely will hurt them this year, Pablo Lopez. Probably the guy that was going to be their best player for the season. He is out for the season. He's got Tommy John surgery. He's going to be on the 60-day IL, and we will not see him in 2026. And then David Festa, he is questionable for opening day. Not sure if we will see him at the start or, into the season. They do have a couple of free agents next year. Most of the guys that they signed to kind of 1-year deals / 2-year deals. Taylor Rogers, definitely one of those 1-year deals. He'll be back on the market. Ryan Jeffers, he's a surprising guy here. Josh Bell, he has a $10 million mutual option, so that could go either way. Justin Topa for the bullpen, $5 million mutual option. And one that is interesting, Joe Ryan has a $13 million mutual option. He is still under team control, though. This would be his final year of arbitration. So they'll either just take that $13 million and not have to worry about an arbitration process, or he'll decline it, try to get more. Maybe the team will decline it, try to get him less. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on there. But he will be with the team still for one more year, regardless whether that mutual option gets accepted or declined. And that brings us to our final team here in the Central, and it is the Chicago White Sox, who finished 60 and 102, a much better season than the one they had in 2024. They were 27th in runs, 21st in starter ERA, and 18th in relief ERA. They finished 28 games back of the Guardians and 27 games back for that final wild card spot. Will Venable is back in his second full season for the White Sox after, his first inaugural year as a manager last year. They did lose some guys, including Tyler Alexander, Mike Tauchman, Martin Perez, Mike Clevenger, Josh Rojas, Steven Wilson, and the big name himself, Luis Robert Jr. Remember when this guy came up? He was being hailed the next Mike Trout. Well, it hasn't really worked out. Good player, good numbers, but not the Mike Trout level numbers we were told about. I will say the White Sox had probably one of the most exciting off seasons. They added lots of fun names, including the guy that was supposed to be the prized possession coming over from the Japanese League. Munetaka Murakami will head to the White Sox. That's really fun. Luis Angel Acuna is joining, of course, brother of Ronald Acuna Jr. Everson Pereira. Anthony Kay is back in Major League Baseball. He signs Sean Newcomb, Ryan Barucki. They're taking a chance on Jared Kelenic, maybe. Sir Anthony Dominguez is back for the bullpen now. I say back, but he's just kind of the new kind of closer. Austin Hayes, Jordan Hicks is on this team. And, of course, Eric Fetty as well. He's back with the White Sox. So, again, a lot of fun names here. Then there's some potential, something that you haven't really been able to say about the White Sox for some time. The rotation, according to Fangraphs, Shane Smith listed as the 1, Davis Martin the 2, Sean Burke is in the 3, and then Anthony Kay and Eric Fetty round off that starting 5 with a lineup that features a guy who kind of balled out last year in Chase Maidroth. We got to hear a lot about this guy, and he showed his talents. He's the starting second baseman, batting first, with Kyle Teal, the catcher, batting second. This is a name that will be said a lot of times this year on this podcast specifically. Colson Montgomery, the shortstop. This is a guy to watch for. Munetaka Murakami, the first baseman. Miguel Vargas, the third baseman. Andrew Benintendi, he is still here. God, it's been forever. He's the left fielder. Austin Hayes, he bats 7th in right field. Brooks Baldwin in center field, batting 8th. And then Edgar Quiero, the DH. He had some interesting numbers last year. He'll bat 9th with a bench that features Corey Lee. I still think he's going to be something in his career, even though he struggled early on here. Lenyn Sosa, Luis Angel Acuna, and Everson Pereira is listed for the for the bench for this White Sox team. The bullpen will have Sir Anthony Dominguez in the back end, Grant Taylor, Sean Newcomb, and they have listed Jordan Hicks, who I think Fangraphs is smart for listing him there because as a starter, he has been very bad, but as a reliever, he has been very good. Use him as a reliever, White Sox. The IL, Drew Thorpe, he is questionable for opening day. He's coming back from Tommy John from that he got last year early in the season. Same thing with Prelander Baroa, also questionable for opening day, coming back from Tommy John. Probably won't see these guys for opening day, but give them some time to ramp up. They'll be back. Then Kai Bush, he is on the 60-day IL. He did get Tommy John surgery, but he is no timetable for his return. He got it a little bit later than those other two guys. The White Sox, just because they don't have a lot of guys on the books, doesn't mean they have a couple of free agents for next year, including Sean Newcomb, Eric Fetty, and then Austin Hayes has an $8 million mutual option. I could see that one going either way here between the two of them. So we'll see if the White Sox end up taking that or not. Well, that is what you got from the AL Central. Let's start the outlook for this division. Let's take it to, where do I want to go first? All 5 teams, there's something interesting to say. Let's go to the Guardians. I think we'll go with Cleveland first because they showed up last year. They showed up when it mattered, which was, of course, in the late half of the season. After the deadline, they really stepped it up, picked up into gear. And the thing was, as amazing as they were playing, part of the reason why they did get the division was because of the collapse that Detroit had. Even if Detroit was playing 500 baseball, the Tigers would have held on to that division. So yes, the Guardians have to do a lot on their half, but they also had to get lucky on Detroit's half. But still, coming back from 15 and a half games, very impressive. I will say, though, I like Gavin Williams. I like the rotation as a whole. I think there's upside there. And the lineup, I mean, to say that, I was shocked when I was doing this research for this episode. 29th in average, in on-base percentage, and OPS. That's worse than the White Sox. That's worse than the Nationals. That's, the only team that's not worse than is the Rockies, I believe. But, that is surprisingly bad, considering they were a 3 seed and a division winner. They had no offense. And I looked at this lineup again. I mean, yes, Stephen Kwan, he's a slap hitter. He's got a little bit of pop in there. Kyle Manzardo, I'm big on him still. I think he has another level to get to. Whether Rhys Hoskins is on this team or not, I think he should be. But then it's Brian Rocchio doesn't really have that offense ability. Bo Naylor, we've seen some potential, but we haven't seen the consistency of it. The only guy here is Jose Ramirez, and he is this whole team's offense, and he got a very healthy extension from the Guardians standpoint, and that's one thing that, helps Cleveland is the fact that they're able to bring back this guy, a guy who bleeds Cleveland, he bleeds the land, and, we think about all the struggles they had to get through last year, especially when they lost Emmanuel Clase. That was really tough, and it's kind of funny that, it's gambling, and that's such a big thing nowadays. It gets advertised by the sports outlets and all these stuff. And I actually went to Cleveland back in 2024. I went to Progressive Field, watch a Guardians game, and it's just a casino, so close by. It's just funny, but they went through so much. And Jose Ramirez is the only massive cog in this offense. You take away him, I mean, where would the Guardians be? I mean, he is a huge part. He's going to finish top 5 in MVP voting. He is consistently this guy. He is such a great ball player, but this offense needs something from someone, whether it is Rhys Hoskins, whether it is Kyle Manzardo, whether it is Stephen Kwan. One of these guys needs to take that elevated approach. Maybe it comes from the farm system. I mean, Chase DeLauder, he's listed as the center fielder. Of course, he was on the Guardians postseason roster. He made his MLB debut in game 1 of the wild card, I believe. I think it was game 1 or game 2. The first play he got, though, was an error, which, I mean, doesn't help when your first start is in a very important playoff game. But, of course, they also have Travis Bazzana, the 1-1 overall from a couple years ago. He's going to be on Team Australia for the World Baseball Classic. That's happening very soon. So, I mean, there's going to be a good chance to check him out. And depending on how he plays in that tournament, maybe we see him sooner than later. Because, I mean, Brian Rocchio and Gabriel Arias, I mean, yeah, up the middle, that's great defensively, but offensively, you're getting nothing. And for me, Cleveland needs some sort of offense to go this year. So that's what we're going to be looking for from Cleveland. Again, Stephen Vogt, great manager. Trust him to run this team well. And again, in what I think is going to be a weaker AL Central division in the last couple of years, maybe not 2023 bad, but I really think that the Guardians will still be competitive, but like when you get to the postseason, you're going to see the difference between a team in the AL East, a team in the AL West, and a team in the AL Central. The Guardians need the offense, and they just don't have it. That's just what I feel like. They just don't have it. Moving on, the Tigers. I like this Tigers team a lot, and I love this rotation. I think it's really interesting to note. What I did note was that Tarek Skubal, Framber Valdez, Jack Flaherty, Justin Verlander, Casey Mize. That's probably, in terms of just my favorite players, one of my top 5 rotations to watch this year. But when you go to the free agents, Justin Verlander, Jack Flaherty, Casey Mize, and Tarek Skubal. The only guy who's not is Framber Valdez, who they just signed to a big contract. But that's 4 of the 5 pieces gone, potentially gone. Justin Verlander, he might retire. We don't know what his thing is going to say. Jack Flaherty's up in the air. The big one is Tarek Skubal, and this team is kind of giving the vibes of could be amazing, but also could be troubling. You get one wrong injury, you get a couple guys who aren't clicking offensively, you could end up in a situation where you get to the deadline, and if the Tigers aren't really in the mix for the postseason, what do you do with Tarek Skubal? That's going to be the big question. We kind of saw this with Vladdy and Bo Bichette last year with the Blue Jays. They got hot, they extended Vladdy, and then they were obviously very good. That question was out of the picture, but that was kind of the questions going into the season was if the Blue Jays suck again, Vlad will be traded, Bichette will be traded, all these guys will be traded. That didn't happen. That could happen for the Tigers. I mean, you go into the deadline, 500, 10 games back of the division, 15 games back of the wild card. We could see Tarek Skubal get dealt. We could see Jack Flaherty, Casey Mize, Gleyber Torres. Like we could see some trades happening here. And again, regular season wise, they're coming off one of the worst months of their season, which was September. They threw away a 15.5 game lead over the Guardians. Yes, they beat them in the postseason when it mattered, but that's still a bad taste to have in your mouth. We saw a lot of great players for the Tigers last year who, for the season, were pretty good. Wencel Perez, he was a name that I learned a lot about last year. Colt Keith kind of stepped up. Dylan Dingler had a big year. Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter. Like there were some guys that you definitely knew the names of, but you saw the potential that could be this Tigers team. And last month of September, you saw these guys fall off a cliff. A lot of them fall off a cliff. So you're kind of entering this year like, okay, who's going to be right? Who's going to let that month go? Is this something that's still worth it? How much money are we going to put into this team? Who's going to put in what? Like Kerry Carpenter, we've seen this guy against right-handed pitching. He is phenomenal. He needs to figure out left-handed pitching still. That is not, a question that needs to be answered. Like he knows he has those issues. Has he figured it out? I don't know. That will be a big telling in how good the Tigers are this year. Riley Green, another guy who I think, has some consistency issues. When he's right and when he's going, he is the offense. He is a leader in this clubhouse. He's probably, outside of Skubal, the best player on this Tigers team. What do you have from him? Javier Baez, he's listed as the bench guy right now. He was very impressive the first 2.5 months of the season, so much so that he earned an all-star nod, and then kind of fell back down the cliff again and was really struggling again in the in the second half. Same with a lot of guys. So there's question marks there. Kenley Jansen, yes, he's old. Yes, he's a veteran guy, and he's done it a lot before. 400 plus saves. I think he'll be fine at the back end there with Will Vest, with Tyler Holton. So when you actually look at the team and the guys on the paper, it's a very good team. A couple injuries, a couple of guys not playing up to the potential, and things can get scary for the Tigers really quickly. Let's talk about the Royals a little bit here, because I very much like this Royals team. I love the rotation. I think they have a top rotation across the league, but definitely, it goes kind of toe to toe with the Tigers rotation right now. And again, I think they have a lot of fun names in this lineup. Miguel Garcia, I think, is just going to get better and better. Bobby Witt, I feel like we still haven't seen the best of Bobby Witt. He himself called last year a down year, and he was still easily the best player on this team. You still have the captain in Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, let him be healthy. Jack Caglione, this top prospect for the Royals, he came up, definitely struggled, but I think he's gotten used to that big league level a little bit. I expect better numbers from him. Carter Jensen, same thing. They picked up Isaac Collins from the Brewers, who finished third in Rookie of the Year voting. That will surely help. And then the bullpen, I think, is very solid. You bring in Matt Strom to help out guys like Carlos Estevez, Lucas Urseg, John Schreiber. So, the names here are solid. I think the bullpen is set. I think the rotation's great. You kind of, the lineup, like I said, I like the guys in this lineup. You'd like to see a little bit more production for them. I mean, when you go back to the team stats last year, 7th in starter ERA, 7th in relief ERA, 26th in runs. This is a team that I think has a higher ceiling than 26th in runs. You let the offense go a little bit, I think, this team can really start rocking. It's kind of a similar vibes to the Cleveland Guardians in a way where pitching is not the problem. Pitching 5 days out of 5, you're going to get a guy who's going to give it his all, go 4 or 5 innings, and give your bullpen a chance to win a ball game if your offense has been able to put up 3-4 runs, which, again, Bobby Witt, that's great. He's one player. You need Vinny to do it consistently. You need Jack Caglione to step up. You need Jonathan India to kind of get on base more. So you let those guys go. You let them do their thing. If that lineup clicks just a tick more than it did last year, this Royals team could be something special entering 2026. Of course, they were a postseason team in 2024. And again, 82-80, they had a couple of injuries. Cole Reagans wasn't healthy the full season. He's the ace of that staff. So you get him for a full 30. I like this Royals team. I do. On paper, it's probably one of my favorite teams in this division. And when you look at the Royals, when you look at the Tigers, when you look at the Guardians, that will be the 3-horse race for the division. So one of these teams is going to step up. It should be the Tigers. But again, something goes wrong, it'll look to the Royals, it'll look to the Guardians. One of these two teams will get that chance. But even if the Tigers stay healthy, I think one of these two teams could even battle this Detroit team. So it'll be a fun little race between these three. But what will be a fun race as well is for 4th place in this division. The Twins, I think, are going to be it's going to be a tough year, obviously. But, it's going to be fun. You've got a couple of fun names here. Josh Bell. You get to see Royce Lewis. Royce Lewis and Byron Buxton, if those guys stay healthy, you're going to get a couple of wins here and there. Are you going to win 70 games again? I don't know. I definitely don't think so. Austin Martin, I want to succeed. James Outman, I want to succeed. Remember when he was so good with the Dodgers and then became so bad that they traded him to the Twins and they traded Miguel Vargas to the White Sox, who we'll be talking about in a second here. But there's some fun names here, guys that can step up. It hurts not having Pablo Lopez. Joe Ryan, he should be good to go. Are the Twins going to be competitive? No. I really have a hard time seeing how this Twins team is going to knock. Again, they were 70-92, 23rd in runs, 23rd in starter ERA, 26th in relief ERA, and that's looking at the full season. When they had Carlos Correa for 4 months, when they had Griffin Jacks for 4 months, when they had some of these guys that they traded at the deadline for 4 months, we're not seeing that as a full season without those guys. That's going to be this year, and I think it's going to be a really tough year. And when you talk about the White Sox, who finished 10 games worse than the Twins, if I look at the off seasons that these teams had, and of course I'm including the deadline for the Twins last year, do I think the Twins could lose 10 less games and the White Sox can win 10 more games? Yeah. You know what? The White Sox are coming in, and I'm not saying the White Sox are going to have this amazing team that can go and win the division. No. Sorry, White Sox fans. You're still a couple years out from that. You're not at that level. I think A's could be at that level. I think the Pirates maybe could be at that level. But the White Sox, they're not there yet. but you bring in Murataka Murakami, who is going to be such a fun watch. You bring in Anthony Kay, who is very good in, I believe it was Japan that he came over from. Jared Kelenic, I mean, he's struggled so much, but can you be the team that tap into something? Sir Anthony Dominguez, Austin Hayes, you bring in Jordan Hicks. I mean, they were making trades to add. They were sending prospects to teams for players. This was a White Sox offseason that we haven't seen in a while. And again, it's not the hope for a division that this team has. It's the hope to not finish last. I really think this White Sox team can finish fourth in this division against the Twins. And again, you go back from 2024, the worst baseball team ever assembled. Last year, they won almost 20 more games than they did in 2024. I'm not saying they're going to win 20 more games and be a 500 ball club, but do I think they're going to win, or do I think they're going to lose less than 100 games? Yeah. Like, that's 3 games that go their way. You bring him in Taka Murakami, I don't care how much he might struggle against some big league pitching. He's going to hit some nukes, man. He's going to get a hold of them, and you're going to see in the WBC, of course. He's going to play for Japan. He is going to be a real threat. Luis Angel Cunha will be good, and I haven't even mentioned Colson Montgomery. I promise you guys, this kid is the next, I have so much faith in this ball player specifically. He is going to show up this year. I mean, he's going to be one of the picks for Rookie of the Year, and if you pick him to win it, you're not going to be making a bad decision. He has that ceiling. You mix that up with Kyle Teal, who's slowly starting to click. Chase Mydroth, who had a very good season last year. You bring in Murakami. You have this veteran outfielder now of Benintendi and Austin Hayes. I think that's a nice duo. This White Sox team is not great, but it's not bad. I like this White Sox team, which I haven't been able to say that since 2022? When they had Yoan Moncada and Tim Anderson and those guys. This is probably my favorite White Sox team that's been assembled in a long, long time. And I say long, it's like the last 3-4 years, but that is a long time for baseball, for some teams. That's a long time to be down in the mud, last in your division. That eats at you as a fan. If you're finishing 5th year in and year out for 4 straight years, that kills you. You got fans showing up to the ballpark with bags on their head. I don't know if we're going to see that yes, it's not going to be White Sox, Tigers, Guardians level, but you can be 4th. That's a real win for the White Sox, and that continues this development of some of these young guys that they have. I'm very excited for what this White Sox team might be able to do in 2026. I might actually, see the White Sox playing and might want to tune in, might want to see a Murakami at bat, see Kelenic if he's getting a chance to play. What does Colson Montgomery have? He has these talents, man. I promise you, I'm very excited this year for the White Sox. And that brings me to my division predictions, which, we'll start at the bottom because I said there's 2 teams at the bottom and 3 teams at the top. White Sox and Twins, I'm going to take the White Sox, man. I think they finish 4th in the division. The Twins will finish 5th. It's going to be kind of close between the 2 of them. Don't get me wrong. I think both of them will finish about mid-60s in the win column. But, the White Sox they haven't done in a while in terms of an offseason additions. Bringing in Acuna, yes, you trade away Luis Robert, but that's a good ad. Barucki's a name who might help in the bullpen. Sean Newcomb. Sir Anthony Dominguez, you got kind of a really nice closer, a guy who pitched really well for Baltimore and the Blue Jays last year. He's going to be the closer for this team. That's really solid. You're not going to have a guy who's going to come out and blow the late innings, which is something the White Sox were very bad at. I believe in this White Sox team to finish 4th, and I think the Twins will finish 5th. I just don't have as much hope in this Twins roster as I do the White Sox. I'm going to take Murakami over Josh Bell. I'm going to hope for that. I'm going to take Chase Mydroth over Luke Keyshaw for second base between the 2 guys. And when you run through this lineup, I'll take Colson Montgomery and what he potentially has over Byron Buxton and what we've seen, which is the inability to stay healthy. Like, I believe in a White Sox team to finish fourth, of course. Okay, let's talk about the top three because, again, as mentioned, Tigers, Guardians, Royals, it's going to be a grudge match. Like, it could go either way. I think Vegas and all these things will have the Tigers kind of being able to run this Central, and I'm okay with that. And I think this team is very good. I have that sour taste in my mouth from last season, and a team that is very similar to a team that threw away a 15 and a half game lead to be like, oh, that team is gonna win this year. That's kind of not right to me, you know. Like, how can I look at a team who had a division? They were fighting for the best team in the AL with the Blue Jays and the Mariners. And then all of a sudden they came to, okay, you guys go take first and second. We're going to try to hold on to the division. And then you still lost the division. Can you really pick that team to win the division? Yes, Tarek Skubal is there. And yes, Tarek Skubal is very good. But again, if the Tigers struggle out the gate, Justin Verlander, Jack Flaherty, Casey Mize, Tarek Skubal, like that whole rotation could be traded. And then what are we talking about with these Tigers? I don't know. I don't really like the Tigers, but I don't love the Guardians either. I kind of like the Royals. You know, I think if I had to say right now, I think I'm taking the Royals to win the division. And honestly, give me the Guardians for second. What they were able to do, they were able to win the division with 29th best average, best on base, and OPS. They were so bad offensively. There's no way they can be just as bad. But they were still able to win the division. I'm going to say the Royals are first, Guardians second, Tigers 3, White Sox 4, Twins 5. And Tigers fans, before you come at me, I want to be wrong on the Tigers. I've just got a bad feeling, man. And I hope I'm wrong. And I hope that feeling goes away. But I really don't know about Detroit. Something tells me it's not going to be a pretty year. And I'm hoping I'm wrong. I truly am hoping I'm wrong. The over and unders for this AL Central, the Guardians are coming in at 78.5. That's kind of low to me. I'm going to take the over pretty easy on that. The Tigers are coming in at 85.5. That's not a bad line, but if I'm saying they're going to come third in this division, that has to be under, right? I'm going to take the under. I'm sorry, Tigers fans. Don't be mad at me. The Royals in at 82.5. Of course, I'm going to take the over. I have them winning the division for crying out loud. The Twins are in at 72.5. That is surprisingly high. Am I wrong about that? Do I have a bad read on the Twins? I don't know. I'm taking the under easily. The White Sox are in at 67.5. That's pretty high. I like that for the White Sox. I'm hoping it's higher for the White Sox. But I have both them and the Twins about 63 to 66 wins. I'm going to take the under on the White Sox. So over on the Guardians, over on the Royals, under on the Tigers, Twins, and White Sox. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for the TOP for the AL Central. Let me know in the comments if I'm right about things, if I'm wrong about things. You let me know your takes. Am I crazy for believing in the Royals? Am I crazy for not believing in the Tigers? Am I crazy for believing in the White Sox over the Twins, for crying out loud? I have no idea, and only time will tell what this division will play out. 4 DOPs down, 2 more to go. Be here tomorrow. Boy, it's going to get good. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, everybody, so much. 4th DOP in the books.